Today's episode is brought to you by Taft Law and its Franchise Advance program, a one-of-a-kind program developed by your host, Josh Brown, to help entrepreneurs assess, convert, and grow your business the right way through sound franchise structures. To learn more, go to taftlaw.com and type Franchise Advance Program in the search bar.
If you think like, act like, or are trying to grow like a franchise, then the Franchise Euphoria podcast is for you. Hello and welcome everybody. Josh Brown here, and I created this podcast for one main goal: to help people who are trying to grow their business through franchising or franchise-like structures to do it the right way. I've been practicing law now as a franchise lawyer for many, many years, and I've seen it done the right way and the wrong way. And this podcast is not filled with a bunch of legal mumbo jumbo. Rather, I talk with real people, people who have been there, have done it, are doing it right now. And I also dive deep into specific topics related to franchising. So if this is of interest to you, you are at the right place. Enjoy. Welcome to another episode of Franchise Euphoria. I'm thrilled to have on Joe Malmuth here, who is the Chief Franchising Officer for Batteries Plus. He's got a long history of helping 26 different franchise brands across multiple industries and brings over 15 years of experience, progressive thinking, motivation, and enthusiasm to the world of franchising. Known for his unique ability to seamlessly blend the art and science behind a revenue-building franchise development program, Joe has been instrumental in the accelerated success of many world-class and innovative brands. Wow, with that kind of an intro, Joe, tell me about yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could live up to how cool that sounds, but well, I guess I will have to wait till the end of the podcast to find that out. But I mean, you summed it up pretty well there. I've been in franchising basically my entire career, and started from the very entry level of all entry level positions, and picking up the phone and qualifying franchise leads, and through the combination of some really good mentors and this strange habit of reading other people's FDDs all the time. You fast forward almost 20 years later, and I sort of know what I'm doing now. So as you mentioned, I'm the Chief Franchising Officer here at Batteries Plus. I oversee the entire franchising program here for this organization, and this is the 26th brand that I've developed in this capacity. So it's been a wild ride.
Well, you seem, I mean, when you have that kind of a background, 26 different brands, it seems to me you're kind of a guy that either goes in and you're a little bit of a fixer, right? You go into a system where maybe they are a franchise, but maybe they're struggling a little bit and they got to kind of put those pieces together. Or perhaps you're going in even earlier than that, and helping them turn into a franchise. Tell me about that. I mean, how do you get involved with so many different brands? Are you coming in after the fact to kind of help them put it all together after they've started, or when are you fitting into these models?
Sure. So a little bit of both. And it's not 26 brands over the course of 17 years. Sounds like I'm skipping jobs every 6 months, and that's not the case. We've been fortunate enough in my past to have, at one point, I think I had 15 brands under my area of responsibility, and so. These are brands that are just turning into a franchise system to brands that have been around 30 plus years, like a Batteries Plus. And in some instances, it's somewhere in the middle. And sometimes it's hey, how do we get this thing to, take off for the first time? In other instances, it's, hey, we've been around, in Batteries Plus, for example, we've been around a long, long time and have had a lot of stability and a lot of success with a brand like this at that, enterprise level, 750 some odd locations. And, how do we make sure that we're well positioned for the next 30 years and not just kind of running that same Windows 95 playbook, if you will, in 2023? And so the fixing part may be on occasion, but I think it's more of, hey, how do we make sure that we're well positioned for the future? How do we make sure that, we're thinking, what's coming around the corner the next 30 years instead of just running that tired, same thing, different day type of a playbook, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So tell me about Batteries Plus. I mean, I think probably most people have heard of Batteries Plus, but give me your sort of 30-second spiel on what it is, what they offer.
So Batteries Plus has been around for since 1986, and we started in Wisconsin. And this time of year is not the time of year you want to be in Wisconsin. Fortunately, I work remote from home in South Florida, so it's a nice 76 degrees here today.
Nice.
And Batteries Plus over the years started out as just as a little battery shop. Everybody's got your AA's and AAA's, but this is more specialty battery type of stuff. Like I need that one special battery to run the floor scrubber at night in my grocery store, or a Zamboni at the skating rink, and these kinds of things. And as that technology developed since the 80s, we have found different applications for the idea of batteries. And, our tagline is power it, light it, fix it. And we've done things, that are appropriate for the time. At one point we were carrying a lot of cordless telephone batteries and camcorder batteries and things along those lines. And, today we're carrying whole home batteries and batteries that go into different types of medical equipment in hospitals, and we're replacing and repairing cell phones because they've got batteries in them too. And the idea is, if you really boil it down, the kind of the future of the brand and where we see ourselves is portable energy. Portable energy. We're powering whatever it is you're doing in your life, whether you're you're a boating enthusiast, or you're somebody who flies drones for a hobby, or you work for the fire department and you've got a bunch of equipment that needs to be portable and battery powered, to, hey, it's my car didn't start, I've got to get to work and I need to replace the battery, all the way down to, my 3-year-old's got a blinky beepy thing that batteries are dead and he's mad, so I better go replace the batteries in that thing, or else I'm not going to get anything done today. So, and all of the above. So,
are these largely freestanding? Are these largely free, like retail type locations?
Yeah, all of our locations are retail, somewhere 1,300 to 1,800 square feet typically.
It's such the model to me has always been so interesting. I mean, I'm obviously familiar with it, but it's so funny because I love niches. I'm all about niches, in franchising. Obviously, there's lots of different niches. This is so niche, but the way you just described it is you really can cast a wide net there, especially if you're looking at being a sort of a total energy solution. So I guess talk about how Batteries Plus competes against, the Home Depot's a large big box place. I mean, you probably have stuff that they don't get, at the same time, but how are you differentiating yourself so somebody comes into a Batteries Plus versus either a direct competitor or just a larger retail shop? Yeah,
sure. So there's two sides to that coin, and we'll start on one side. First of all, you mentioned direct competitor, and the cool thing about this niche is we don't have a direct competitor. There isn't somebody who does exactly what we do. We have a lot of categorical competitors, but there's no one direct competitor that we go up against. It's not like, hey, we do pizza and there's 10 other pizza places that do exactly what we do. That's not the case here. So on one hand, you're right. This is a very clear niche, and we're the big dog in the niche. So we have all of the buying power. We have all of the leverage. We have all of the scale and the infrastructure to really support a franchisee's journey to success through entrepreneurship in this space. The second thing that I'll tell you is there are certain things about this niche that give us a unique advantage or a mode of protection kind of around this system. And a component of this is retail, right? And then there's a commercial side to this as well. So you mentioned Home Depot. Home Depot's got AA's and AAA's and a handful of other types of small cell batteries. And Home Depot has, a couple of racks of light bulbs and stuff like that. What Home Depot can't do is source 200 golf cart batteries for the golf course down the street. What Home Depot can't do is somebody walks in with a lamp and says, do you have the right bulb for this? Because I have no idea what fits in that socket. What Home Depot can't do is provide an assisted living facility with all of their battery power for all of the medical devices that they have, for all of their exit signs, for all their lighting and light bulbs, and additionally, make sure that they're staying on top of that stuff. Home Depot is not going to be the guy out there that's making sure that all of the battery backup power necessary for a fire suppression system's in place. We do all of those things. And while you're waiting for us to do those things, we're going to replace the cracked screen on your cell phone at the same time. So the nice thing about it is, there are companies out there, competitors out there that do one, maybe two of the things that we do, but nobody does all of those things. And what that does for the franchise, for the franchisee, is it creates this incredibly stable system. So if you think about it like a kid's birthday party, and you got somebody making balloon animals, and they blow out that really, really long balloon. And if you were to write out with a Sharpie on the side of that balloon all of the different categories that we're in, depending on what's going on in the world, if there's a squeeze in one part of that balloon where that part of the business is tough, there's an inflation somewhere else that's compensating for it. So you add to that multiple revenue streams within the system, you add to that the buying power that we have, and we've got this brand that's been in the top 500, Entrepreneur 500 for the 30 years in a row. We just did our 30th year in a row. And so that stability, that staying power, that when the world's on fire like it has been for the last 3 years, and our franchisees are comping positive year over year over year, when other people were struggling to just stay open because of municipal rules, we didn't have any of those problems. So a lot of people would look at us and go, well, I don't know that this is going to be that sexy, get rich quick type of thing, but do you really want that, or do you want the thing that's always going to produce?
Well, it's interesting because, obviously, a selling factor is, like you said, there's not, always the risk when you get into sandwich shops or traditional retail is you can't really control who opens up across the street, right? You may be able to control it in your own center. You can have exclusives and whatnot, but unless that same center owns the land across the street, catty corner, whatever, in all likelihood, you don't know when that competitor is going to pop in. Now, in your case, that's likely with Batteries Plus, that's likely not going to happen, or at least not as readily. You've got other competing factors. But I got to think too, with this kind of model, the play here is multi-unit, right? I mean, you're not looking for single unit franchisees, or are you?
So we're absolutely happy to bring on single unit franchisees. We continue to do that. We brought on 60 new franchisees last year, and probably 3/4 of them were single unit. But the model does perform very well as a multi-unit opportunity for a couple of different reasons. I mentioned before that we're a retail and commercial business. What I mean by that is both B2C and B2B. And this is the kind of business where, you have a store, that's your presence in the community. But for our model, the way we really go to the moon with this thing in terms of sales and, making money is on the commercial side. So that's where you can do $100,000 transaction, one order, versus, $150 car battery or $100 phone repair or something along or, a package of AA's for your TV remote. So the retail portion of the business is important because it's almost like we've monetized your warehouse, if that makes sense. People can come in, you have that part of that interaction in the community, that distribution point. Part of the model is to have commercial sales representatives on your team. And as you scale multi-unit, you're not scaling up in staff on the commercial side. You can have, I got one franchise owner, for example, who's got 7 stores in Minnesota. He has one commercial sales rep across all 7 of those stores. So the expense of that individual as a payroll line item, so to speak, spreads out as you scale. So this is one of those businesses where as you scale and as the revenue goes up and your business footprint increases, your expenses aren't necessarily increasing in every category, which is a real arbitrage opportunity for a franchise owner.
Yeah, and I got to think too, the people, I think it only takes 1 to maybe 2 people to operate those locations in the actual store.
Yeah, so in the store itself at a given time, yeah, you're about right. We usually are telling folks, if you're hiring a manager, you're talking 4 to 5 employees total on the retail side. If you're going to be an owner or operator, you're going to take one of those positions. And on the commercial side, if you're a one store guy, you're going to bring on 1 commercial salesperson. You can play that role too, but our model is that you have 1 dedicated resource to generating commercial business. And one of the nice advantages about this brand and the tenure, this is what happens when you investigate a brand that's been around as long as we have and has invested our our royalty revenue back into the system to support franchisees. We have programs like commercial as a service, where if you wanted to outsource a lot of the generating of that commercial sales activity and that type of thing, we have a program that you can do that, and we'll take it off your hands and help you kind of get it up and running and kind of step you back into it. Those are the kinds of things we're able to do to help franchisees scale their business. And so when you think about it in terms of the multi-unit operator, well, I'm taking difficulty out of the business. I'm making it simpler for you to operate this thing at a high level, versus, hey, I've got a McDonald's and I've got 3 shifts and I need 80 part-time teenagers. I need 4 or 5 guys. That's it. And in a world where hiring has been what it's been like lately, that's a heck of a lot less of a headache than you will find with a lot of other brands that are out there.
Yes, I mean, I think that whole corporate side, which I hadn't really thought about, with Batteries Plus, is really a differentiator, because that would allow somebody, it seems, who had one location to really drive enough revenue to make that be something worthwhile versus just, buying a job, essentially for that, because you can, it seems those corporate accounts can be very lucrative, it seems.
Well, to give you an idea, I'll give you this coming year's numbers, because I had that part of the FDD finalized, which drops at the end of March. But our top store in 2022 did $7.2 million out of a battery shop.
Are you serious? That's pretty good.
Yeah. So, it goes a long way from people just thinking, oh, well, I can get my AA's at the register at the grocery store. This goes way beyond that. And so the interesting piece of that, though, if you look at the top 50% of our system, good, bad, or otherwise, the top half of the system averages like 1.1 and change in terms of sales. And we don't have, including that market where the $7 million store is, we don't have a single market that, based on our research and demographics and stuff that we look at, that's penetrated more than 1% of the gettable commercial business in their territory. So there's still a tremendous amount of upside growth for those owners that are coming in and zeroing in on that opportunity and developing that part of their business. The retail piece is always going to be there, but that's going to be the part of the business that pays for the business. You make a little bit of scratch with that, but you're not going to go to the moon. It's the commercial side of our opportunities where people are really going, okay, there's something to this. For the price of one quick service restaurant franchise, I can open 5 Batteries Pluses, still have less employees, and have the same top line. That makes all the sense in the world.
So where do you guys like to go? I mean, do you guys have, obviously you've been around long enough, you kind of know where the markets are. What's the ideal retail center or area that a Batteries Plus really works well in?
If you can see fountains and hear music, it's probably not the right kind of plaza for a Batteries Plus. But, I don't want to be tucked away in like a light industrial warehouse park either. I want to be somewhere kind of in the middle. I want to be in that $25 to $35 a square foot type of property, depending on the market. And, the interesting thing is we've got stores in downtown Miami and downtown Chicago and downtown Orlando and all over Dallas and LA and these really high density markets. But I've also got a store in Cholo, Arizona, a town that nobody's ever heard of that has a population of 15,000 people. And I've got a store in Forest Lake, Minnesota that's 45 minutes from anything other than trees that's doing fantastic. And we have this ability to go into the community and really identify what makes that unique market special for us and really do well. If you've got a school district and you've got grocery stores and you've got a hospital and you've got people that have vehicles of some kind, and then maybe a pocket of the community's got a little bit of extra money, so maybe they've got a boat or an ATV or they play golf or anything along those lines, just take 15 minutes and walk through your house and count the amount of things that have batteries or light bulbs in it. And then think about how that scales on the commercial side. We have yet to find a market that doesn't really make sense. It just has an adjustment to maybe some of the targeted business that we chase up front, or maybe some of how the marketing dollars are spent initially, and those types of things. But we've got everything from a 15,000 person territory to territories that, in Long Island, New York, that have 600,000 people in a 5-mile radius. And across the board, we're seeing predictable success.
So I want to spend our last few minutes together talking about two different things. First, I want to hear your thoughts on where Batteries Plus is trying to go through 2023 and beyond. And then I want to segue a little bit at the end to talk about, I mean, you've got a lot of experience. And the people listening to this podcast are folks who are looking at buying franchises. They're folks that are looking at turning their business into franchises. They're folks that are looking at a combination of both, and maybe not even sure about the franchise industry in and of itself. So I'd like to finish off with just getting your thoughts on the franchise industry, where things are going based on your experience. But before we dive into that, tell me what the future holds for Batteries Plus. Where are you guys going with your development over the next 12 to 24 months?
Yeah, so in 2022 we signed 60 stores and opened 45. In 2021 we signed 91 stores and opened a big number of locations. In 2023 we're targeting another 60 signings and another 40 openings. And because of that, and because of the stability of the brand, I should say, we don't really see that slowing down. And year to date, we're seeing roughly 20 people a day knocking on our door saying, "Hey, I'd like to be considered for a franchise opportunity with Batteries Plus." And that's because, if you think about it in terms of...
That makes your job easier.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but it just means I'm busy. I don't have a lot of downtime.
Listen, it's an important point. You can get people knocking on the door. They have to be the right people.
Correct.
Right? I mean, they have to be the right people because, I think franchises make a big mistake in their quest to grow fast, especially newer franchisors. They just take any heartbeat and try to plug it in and hope that it works. And that's not a great strategy. So even though you have a lot of people beating down your doors, it sounds like that's a hard job for you to kind of discern.
Yeah, I have a really, really good team that spends all day long having conversations and educating people and qualifying people into the system and qualifying people out of the system based on the characteristics that we look for in what we think is going to make for a good franchisee. I have all walks of life.
What do you look for? Yeah.
Well, let me give you a couple of items first. We look for. We're not super concerned with necessarily. I want this one particular type of salesperson that came out of this particular type of industry. We're not that rigid about it, but we're looking for people with a high degree of character and integrity first and foremost. We're entrusting our brand and the future of all of our brother and sister franchisees within the system in this new person's hand, and they have to be above reproach in that sense. And we want to make sure that they're going to fold into our culture appropriately. But we're looking for, we have 3 or 4 different things we look for depending on what the candidate is looking to come in as, whether it's a single unit owner or a market consolidator or a multi-unit person. So we have different kind of personas that we have carved out. But there are different skill sets that come behind each of them. If it's going to be a single unit owner operator, we're looking for high degree of motivation. We're looking for someone who can build a community, who's plugged into their community already, and those kinds of things. If we're looking for somebody who's going to come in and build out the rest of a market and maybe start acquiring neighboring franchisees as they look to retire or these different things, then that's a different set of skills of people that have to come into the program. And kind of touching on what you said a second ago, letting anybody in with a pulse who can qualify for a loan is not a strategy for success for any franchise system. But there are franchise systems out there that go too far in the other direction too. And they make people take 17 different personality tests, and they have to be able to cook a hibachi meal in front of everybody and all these ridiculous hoops that they got to jump through. And what winds up happening, you have a franchise system that's been around for 20 years that's only reached 130 locations. And what franchisors, I think, need to remember, it's our fiduciary duty to the franchisee, to the investor, to grow the system too. Because why are they joining a franchise versus doing something on their own? Because they want household brand recognition. They want buying power. They want to pool advertising dollars and get advantages that a franchise system brings to the table. And if you're a franchisor that's not growing fast enough, you deny the franchisees those benefits of being a part of a system. If you grow too fast, then you're going to implode under the weight of your own success. So there's a very much a balancing act, and each brand is very unique in that sense and what their needs are. And it's important to seek mentors and do a lot of research and get a lot of people's advice. There's one thing I'll tell you about the world of franchising at large is franchising is growing. It's not going anywhere. A couple of years ago, there were 4,000 franchisors in the U.S., give or take. I think last I looked, there was closer to 6,000 now in just the span of a couple of years. franchising is growing. It's not going anywhere. Excuse me. And
well, tell me though, because that kind of ties in. I mean, if you've been in this a long time, it's hard to limit it, and I don't want to unfairly, put you in the position of saying, "Hey, what's the one thing in franchising?" But it seems to me getting the right people on the bus is obviously key. What are some of the other things you've learned that, because I firmly believe there's not one way to do it, right? I mean, you can grow systems a lot of different ways, but there are themes that run across all successful systems. What are a few of the things that you see as we finish up this interview that you've seen over a lot of different brands, that it may be a different recipe, but the process is similar? These things, you talked about the character of the people. Obviously, that's got to be important. I mean, what are some of those themes that run across all brands that help make them successful?
Grit. That is the number one key ingredient to the success of a franchisee, to the success of a franchisor is grit. Every franchisor out there has experienced that owner who they think is going to be fantastic and has all the right stuff and says all the right things and gets into the system and crashes and burns. Every franchisor has experienced the exact opposite of that. The guy who never in a million years would they've normally signed this person, but somehow they're one of the top dogs in the system. The difference between the two of them is grit. Who's going to hang on and get through the tough times, get through the scary moments, the sleepless nights? Who's going to be that guy that, hey, it's quitting time for the day, but I'm just going to make one more phone call today. Just one extra phone call, that one more thing, whatever that thing is, that's the key. And that's the hard thing to really pull out of a diligence process when you're courting a potential franchise investor. And good franchisors figure out how to pull that out of their story and show it to the franchise candidate, and the franchise candidates will respond in kind and kind of show their cards too. And it's the ones that show grit that tend to be the highest success in any particular franchise system. That's the one common factor across all systems that you can bank on.
Well, if you want to learn more about Batteries Plus, go to batteriesplus.com or batteriesplusfranchise.com. That's batteriesplus.com or batteriesplusfranchise.com. Joe, you've been great, man. I would expect nothing less. I mean, you've worked on half the franchise brands out there. So, just kidding. No, really, it's great. You bring a lot of experience and tremendous amount of insight. And actually, I learned a lot about Batteries Plus, because like I said, I was really coming into this interview thinking more on the B2C side, but really the secret sauce, it seems like, with Batteries Plus is that B2B development in those communities, which is really kind of cool. I mean, I see how that could be. It's one of those things. It's almost like a sign company where, you never really think about it until you go, holy cow, there's lots of signs everywhere. Who the hell puts those signs up? It's like you don't really think about batteries and how much they operate and how different, you know what I'm saying? All the different forms they come in.
I have one of the major sign franchises in my background, so I know that example all too well. And, I'll go a step further and say that, now that I've been on the Franchise Euphoria podcast, I can retire happy. So it's been a pleasure today.
Thank you, Joe. Be well, man. Good luck in the future.
You too. Thanks.
Thank you so much for tuning into another episode of Franchise Euphoria. If you enjoyed it, please head over to Apple Podcasts and leave a rating and review. It really helps to get this show out to more and more people. Also, if you have any questions, have ideas for guests or topics, please email me, josh@indyfranchiselaw.com. That's Josh at indyfranchiselaw.com. And finally, please note that this podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes and is not in any way, shape, or form meant to be any kind of legal advice. If you're seeking legal advice, please contact a lawyer. Have a great one. Happy franchising.